What if I told you that somewhere in this world exists a clock that doesn't just count time? It steals decades from your life with every tick. Tonight we're diving into the twisted tale of an antique timepiece that turns minutes into years and years into nightmares. This isn't just another ghost story. This is about time itself becoming your executioner. In the dusty corners of estate sales and forgotten antique shops, collectors hunt for treasures that hold history within their crafted frames. But some objects carry more than memories. They carry curses that transcend our understanding of time itself. Tonight's story takes us to Salem, Massachusetts, where an innocent purchase becomes a race against the most precious commodity we possess, our remaining years on this earth. Margaret Chen had always been drawn to vintage timepieces. At 32, she ran a small antique restoration business from her converted basement workshop in Salem's historic district. The wooden floors creaked with each step, and the smell of wood polish mixed with something else, something that seemed to whisper of centuries past. The grandfather clock arrived on a Tuesday morning, delivered by two men who seemed unusually eager to leave. Found it in an estate clearance, the seller had explained over the phone. Previous owner, well, let's just say they aged out of caring for it. His nervous laugh should have been warning enough. The clock stood 7 feet tall, carved from what appeared to be blackwood, though Margaret couldn't identify the exact species. Intricate spirals decorated its surface, patterns that seemed to shift when she wasn't looking directly at them. The face was ivory white, with Roman numerals that gleamed as if recently polished, despite the seller's claims of decades of neglect. But it was the pendulum that truly caught her attention. Instead of brass or gold, it appeared to be made of what looked like compressed sand, thousands of tiny granules held together in a crystalline formation that caught the light in impossible ways. As she examined it closer, Margaret could swear she saw faces in those granules, faces that looked older somehow. The first sign something was wrong came 3 hours after she wound the mechanism. Margaret had been cataloguing other pieces when she caught her reflection in the clock's glass case. For just a moment, she thought she saw a stranger, someone with deeper lines around the eyes, grayer hair at the temples. She blinked, and her familiar face returned, but a chill ran down her spine. The clock's chime was unlike anything she'd ever heard. Not the traditional Westminster melody, but something more ancient, a sound that seemed to resonate in her bones, in her very DNA. Each chime felt like a whisper. Time, time, time. By evening, Margaret noticed her hands looked different. The skin seemed slightly looser, and there was a small age spot on her right wrist that definitely hadn't been there that morning. She told herself it was the lighting, stress from work, anything but the impossible truth that was beginning to form in her mind. The clock had been running for exactly 6 hours. If her calculations were correct, and if the impossible was somehow possible, she should have aged 60 years. Margaret's reflection in the bathroom mirror confirmed her worst fears. The woman staring back at her had silver-streaked hair, pronounced crow's feet, and the kind of deep laugh lines that come from decades of living. She was looking at herself at 92 years old. But the horror wasn't just physical. With the aging came memories that weren't hers, or rather, memories of a life she'd never lived. She remembered grandchildren she'd never had, the death of parents who were still alive, decades of experiences compressed into hours of real time. Her mind was fragmenting under the weight of a lifetime that had been artificially accelerated. The clock continued its relentless ticking downstairs. Each second was now a countdown to oblivion, each minute a decade of life stolen from her future. She tried to stop it pulling at the pendulum, but her aged hands lacked the strength they'd possessed that morning. The clock seemed to mock her efforts with its hypnotic rhythm. Research became her obsession. Through online databases and historical records, she discovered the clock's previous owners. The pattern was always the same. People would acquire it, age rapidly, and then disappear. Not die exactly, but simply vanish from records, as if they'd lived their entire lives in fast forward and then stepped outside of time itself. EFI. Most disturbing discovery came in a journal entry from 1847, found in the Salem Historical Society's archives. The clockmaker spoke of time as a river that could be dammed, redirected, or accelerated. He claimed to have found a way to compress lifetimes into moments, to experience the fullness of existence in mere hours. We thought him mad until we saw what his creation could do. God help us all. As Margaret's body continued its supernatural, aging, approaching what should have been her 100th year, she realized the terrible truth. The clock wasn't just stealing her time, it was feeding on it, growing stronger with each year it consumed. The wood seemed more vibrant, the pendulum swung with greater purpose, and the faces trapped within its crystalline structure grew more distinct. She was not the first victim, and she would not be the last. The clock was patient, eternal, and hungry. Time itself had become predator, and she was merely the latest meal in its centuries-long feast. The chiming grew louder, more insistent, as if announcing the approaching end of her accelerated lifetime. Margaret looked at her reflection one final time, seeing a centenarian's face on her 32-year-old soul, and realized that some antiques are better left buried in the past. If this story of temporal horror sent chills down your spine, smash that like button and subscribe for more nightmares that blur the line between reality and the impossible. Share your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe time itself can become our enemy? And remember, the next time you hear an unfamiliar clock ticking in the darkness, maybe it's better to let sleeping timepieces lie.